As you talked about your units, you talked first about selecting a theme and an important question that was going to guide everything that you put together for your unit. And then the next step was really looking at our national standards and seeing how those were going to inform your unit design. Language and culture, the communication and culture C's of our standards are obvious because that's why we have language classes. But I'd like you especially to talk about how you bring in connections, comparisons, and communities, the other 3 C's that sometimes get sidetracked in teachers' planning. How do those fit into a good, solid, integrated performance assessment unit?
The 5 C's can come sometimes nearly automatically into the whole unit. So, for example, regarding our unit, which is about cinema and how cinema depicts history, it's the connection between history and Italian history during the Second World War and then afterwards was really easy. It's really easy to make, so it's really easy to put it in and have students relate to the knowledge they have already in the other disciplines, for example, and connect it to the Italian reality. Another connection that it's present in our unit is the fact of how irony is used, for example, in movies. And so you can, for example, students, and we do have a few who are studying cinema and arts, can relate to how irony is used in an Italian context and respect to other contexts, for example. So how does it reflect the culture of the country?
I generally like to start with the connections and the comparisons. This generally gets students' interest. I always think of the inquiry piece of what interests them, and thinking of the markets and what's the purpose of a market. Why would they exist? I like to even pull in different foods. Well, where do you think we got corn? Where do you think we got potatoes? And how did the trade industry begin many years ago? It just sparks all sorts of new interest. And from there, the language naturally starts to flow in a purposeful way.
I was struck by what all of you said initially when Anna talked about comparing and analyzing and doing some basically critical thinking, but and we certainly expect that of college students and university students. But as each of you talked about your unit, even though the students have beginning level of language, those critical thinking and analyzing types of activities go on in all the units. And we spend a great deal of time thinking about how to engage our students and how to make our units interesting and to give them a problem to solve and a higher question to address. And your units all do that in one way or another.